Toxic Avenger was a 1984 comedy horror B-movie. It spawned three sequels, and a children's cartoon series called The Toxic Crusaders was based off of it. Although it only ran for one season for 13 episodes, an NES game based off the series was released by Bandai in 1992. You play as Toxie, a mutant whose girlfriend Yvonne and other fellow Crusader buddies have been kidnapped by Dr. Kilimoff. Nice. You walk around beating up bad guy mutants on the streets, wielding your oh-so-dangerous mop, while your opponents fire off guns and pour acid on you. Sounds like a fair fight, doesn't it? You can grab toxic waste cans that upgrade your mop into what is called the 3 mop levels. Your first mop level is a standard mop that you swing at enemies, a second mop level that fires little green turd projectiles, and a third that lets you throw your mop like a boomerang and still attack using your fists. This sounds all well and good, but what sucks is that after you take one hit, you lose your mop and you can only attack using your fists, which has an attack range that's shorter than my dick. The mop's standard level sucks too, but at least it's something. After losing your mop, you can only regain it by finding one of the waste cans, but you have to be at full health to make this happen. So you have to regenerate yourself back up to full strength, and then manage to not get hit at all while using the low-level mop attack before you can find the next waste can. That's some bullshit. You should always have the mop, and you should always be able to level yourself up. Once you have the second tier mop, it at least becomes a halfway playable game at that point. It shouldn't be a fucking trek to make it happen. Because these enemies are such a pain in the ass, who all seem to have longer range attacks than you, the likelihood of being able to keep yourself from getting hit through a long enough stretch to upgrade your mop is somewhere between impossible and you've been playing this game for too long. It's a very substandard knockoff of several beat-em-ups of the time. In fact, there are quite a few similarities with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game in particular, that you'll likely notice right away. There are a lot of flaws in general with this game. Where do I begin? Toxie has to be 3/4 of the way across the screen to get the screen to move, so enemies pop out of nowhere a lot. It seems like half the time you have to know where on the screen to locate yourself before any enemies come on screen based on trial and error. Another reason why you won't have the mop for long. And even when you don't get hit right away, even basic enemies have such erratic attack patterns, you can't even react in time and you'll often take hits from them too, further decreasing your chances of upgrading your mop. As I mentioned before, the difficulty is high, but it's really more like unforgiving. I like a game that provides challenge, not a game whose challenge is unfair and cheap. At least the game throws you a frickin' bone by giving you your mop and full health when you advance to a new stage, as well as letting you continue after a game over via a 4-digit password system. Although if you fail the password, you're forced to reset the game because there's no escaping the password screen. Just another flaw in design that speaks volumes to how lazy this shit was cobbled together. The controls are a little stiff, but in general, you have pretty decent control of Toxie. The graphics are fine too, if not a bit mundane, and the backgrounds are sometimes depressing to look at, but a lot of that is the nature of the theme of the game. You're an ugly-ass mutant fighting ugly-ass mutants in a toxic environment. And the music is pretty good too, actually. But even with moderately okay graphics, sound, and controls, the gameplay is such shit that none of that matters. The first level is Tromaville. It starts off with a pair of these mutant punks carrying barrels of acid. They'll either swing the barrel at you at short range, or toss some acid at you at a short distance. But even that short distance is a longer range than your attack, and they don't telegraph themselves at all, so it's tough to react. The best way I find to counter this shit is to get kinda close to them to bait them into attacking, and then quickly dodge and jump back in. Coming in head on against them can be dangerous too, cause there's not much of a window. They just start attacking again right away. So if you can, stay at a different horizontal level from them, and either let them walk towards your level, or vice versa, taking your swings just as you get parallel to each other. It's frustrating as fuck that essentially the Goombas of this game are this much bullshit to dispose of, but that's Toxic Crusaders for you. Once you hit them, keep swinging. Just rapidly attack as long as you're not being jumped from behind by someone else. As long as you're hitting them, they're stunned momentarily. So after one swing, you can pretty much kill them. Needless to say, you don't want to step in this green shit that's all over the fucking street, but you can punch the barrels to potentially open up an item, either health or mop upgrades, which are quite helpful and basically essential to complete the game, considering all the hits you're probably going to be taking. Then you'll see some rolling barrels. You can walk to the side or jump over them, but these tend to have items in them too, so I would suggest punching them out as well. Then the acid assholes start popping up in teams of 3, which makes it harder to rapid attack each of them without getting sneak attacked. Then you'll meet these pricks that seem to fire off some kind of gas at you. They're essentially the same as the acid barrel guys. Their attack range is about the same and their patterns are just as sporadic. They just seem to fire more frequently. When you get to the Tromaville pet shop, enter the door and grab the kitty litter. This will somehow reduce the boss of the stage's health in half. The second half of the stage is filled with familiar enemies from the first half. Some parts have a limited area to maneuver thanks to these streams of acid. Make the most of what you have and move on. When you get to the end, you'll hop into the back of this box truck and take on the boss, this gray mutant glob that looks like Goofy if he took a bath in some liquid metal. Actually, his name is Peludo, so I can see more of a resemblance to Pluto. He'll spit these metal hairball-looking projectiles that travel slowly and are easy enough to avoid, but the problem is you have to get up close to him and smash him in the face to do any kind of damage, unless you have long-range attack. And his attacks come from his face, so it's not a place you really want to be. Adding insult to injury is the super fucking precise hit detection. You have to get just the right spot, and it won't work if he's in the midst of spitting. If you have a mop, then you have a much better shot of connecting, but with your fists, it's not so much. So maneuver between the hairballs, get up close, and jump attack. I seem to get the right spot if I attack just as I'm heading back down to the ground. Keep it going. You don't want him spitting anything because he fires in your general direction, and he'll likely hit you if you're right up at his grill. After enough hits, you'll take him down and be done with the stage, rescuing your pal, whose name is Major Disaster, and it makes the front page of the Tromaville Times. You also get the tagline, "Be like me, plant a tree." Ugh. Level 2 is Tromaville High School. The barrels that roll on by bounce up and down, so you don't want to jump over them. Simply move to the side or punch them out. You'll battle mostly acid and gas gun mutants in teams of 3 and some barrels. But once you get some progress through the school, some asshole decides to throw furniture through the windows. Be aware of this once the screen stops. This usually signifies a fight sequence, but sometimes these tables come out of nowhere, so you have to keep your eyes peeled for hazards in all directions. When the tables come, line yourself up vertically with the doors as opposed to the windows. There won't be any other enemies when this shit's happening, so you don't have to worry about hugging the edges too tightly. When you get to the end and there's nowhere to go, you'll have to go through this door. You know, the one that looks like every other door that's only here for decoration and has absolutely nothing to distinguish itself from the rest of them. The boss battle for the stage is this guy on a motorcycle. He rides in from either side of the screen tossing explosives. There's hardly any room to get to him, and even if you do, he's likely to collide with you using his bike. So to do damage, you have to get between his attacks. Wait for his second throw in each exchange, jump, and attack. The only problem is you'll make contact with the bike on your landing, so you have to hold down on the D-pad just after you attack so you can get out of the way just in time. It's a lot of bullshit, but once you get the timing down, it's not so bad. Just be patient. You're much better off overcompensating with the D-pad than you are with the attack. Better to live and fight another day. Once you take them out, you'll have rescued Headbanger. Their floating heads making up another front page photo and another environmental tagline. Oh boy, this is going to be a thing now, isn't it? Level 3 is at the Tromaville factory. Of course, here you're going to get more acid across the floor. But goddamn, look at these streams. How the hell am I going to get across? Well, you have to carefully land in between each of them. It's easier to do it at the top of the screen. Lining up with the barrels gives you a better marker to judge your landing spots. Plus, you're going to want to smash the barrels, not just for potential items, but also because these cute little birds fly by and nosedive straight into the fucking thing and then mutate into this gruesome looking bat creature that attacks you. Thankfully, they only pass by once, but they're quick and a little damage can go a long way, so if you wipe out the barrels beforehand, you won't see the birds at all. It is a pain in the ass though to fight the acid and gun mutants with all this shit all over the floor. Having space to maneuver is one of your biggest allies when dealing with these creatures. You'll start ascending vertically and meet up with these mutant bats again, but these are more persistent. Just attack them when they try to hit you head on. They'll take a few hits and fall off. This guy swoops in and flies around the room on a jetpack, tossing oil drums and trying to bump into you. Try to get lined up with him head on and attack repeatedly. You don't want to spend time playing dodgeball with him. Then this guy tries to essentially do the same thing from on foot. Quickly hop across the platforms avoiding the oil drums, get in front of his face, and rapidly attack. A few more rounds of these guys and you'll meet up with the boss. It's Pluto again, only this time he's dipped in the hate slime from Ghostbusters 2. His projectiles are fireballs this time, but they're the same size as last time, just a little bit faster. There's otherwise nothing different about this fight from the first one. Utilize the same strategy as earlier and you'll wipe him out. You'll pose for another photo shoot with your rescued comrade, this time Junkyard, and once again, you'll get an eco-friendly tagline. I guess this is your reward for persevering through this unforgiving game. Level 4, Tromaville Highway, is a skateboarding stage. It has the appearance of an auto-scroller, but for the most part you're fighting mutants until you clear them all out. Essentially the same as most of the game up to this point. The big difference here though is you won't lose your mop upon taking a hit. Not sure why, but who cares, I'll take it. That's how the whole fucking game should have been. You got more of the acid and gun mutants, nothing different about having to fight them. Then you'll get this dipshit on a jetpack tossing oil drums. Keep your distance while he's throwing them at you, and attack when he repositions himself. It'll get more difficult later on when you have to face two of them at once. You want to be more patient here. Don't attack either of them if the other is within distance of hitting you, but keep the same hit and run strategy. You'll hop off your board, and now you've got this knucklehead pretending to be Donkey Kong. Maneuver your way between the barrels and slap him silly. You'll then get to the chopper and face off with this fat fuck with a Tommy gun. First off, watch your footing cause you can fall off the edge of the helicopter into the abyss. The fat fuck will fire at a 45-degree angle as well as straight ahead, so you could get hit if you try to jump in front of him before attacking. Let him wander in front of you and attack rapidly. You can get a lot of shots in a row on him, but he will throw himself at you once in a while, so you might have to take a hit or two. But as long as you get lined up with him, you should be able to get enough hits to take him out. And he'll explode for some reason while expressing his gratitude for defeating him so he can go eat donuts. You'll rescue No Zone here, and your environmental lesson for this stage is to reuse your tissues. It's fucking disgusting. The fifth level is in the sewer. You won't be able to jump as you traverse through this waste. When the screen stops, look for the ripples in the river, even if it means suffering a seizure as a result of this flashy pool of shit. These guys will pop up from the spot of these ripples, fire a bullet in your general direction, and then sink back into the river. The good news is, they'll continuously pop up in the same spot, so once you see the ripple, keep your distance, dodge the bullet, and then swoop in and attack when they pop back out. It's like whack-a-mole if you know exactly where they're coming from. 2 hits and they're dead. But then you'll start getting 2 at a time, so when you attack the first guy, be ready to flee immediately to dodge the projectile from the other one. Then you'll start getting whirlpools while you try to wipe these guys out. If you get sucked into one, you won't die, but you'll be dragged all the way back to the beginning of the stage. After you kill these guys, you'll find out that you can't advance any further. Is this as far as you can get? Nope. Much like the cryptic door in the high school stage earlier, you have to take a wild guess and throw yourself into this whirlpool which warps you into the underwater portion of the stage. Now, why would I have expected this whirlpool to do anything different than the others? But you know what this means? There's no need to even kill these schmucks in the first place. As soon as you see this whirlpool, head straight for it immediately. Once you're down here, stay low and let these blue fish swim past you. You can kill them, but if they get a hold of you, they latch on and cost you a few hits, so it's not worth bothering. These urchins at the bottom will fire off these spiked balls up at you, so you'll find yourself weaving your way between them at the same time as dodging the fish. And if that weren't enough, these scuba divers will swoop down from the edges of either side of the screen and fire spiked balls at you. So you've got this shit coming at you from all directions. You can kill the divers or urchins to alleviate some of this bullshit, but you're leaving yourself vulnerable to attack in the process. So decide for yourself if you want to kill these pricks, or be evasive and dodge everything, whichever method you think you can execute better. Good luck either way. You'll then meet up with the boss, an aquatic robot that fires 3 missiles and then moves in to corner you before sinking back down to the bottom before repeating the process. Stay down low, get a shot at the glass portion of the machine, and retreat up to the top, getting one more shot at it as it closes in on you. The line of thinking here is that you can avoid taking damage because you're temporarily invincible right after registering a hit on the machine. Stay ahead of the game, and you'll take it out. And the dipshit manning the robot claims he predicted you'd defeat him because he's a psycho? Alright. No newspaper photo this time. Straight on to the 6th and final level of the game, the Island City. You'll get your tried and true encounters with the acid throwers, gas gunners, and rolling barrels. But you've also got to deal with tiny flying things that stop and fire a shot at you simultaneously before going back to swooping around. Watch the crosshairs and avoid that area when they stop to shoot, and then jump up into the air and wipe them out. Be ready for these small missiles that pop out of the ground and fire towards you. Keep your eyes peeled for these hidden spears that fire out of the wall. You'll be able to see them in the background if you're conscientious. You'll soon reach the next segment, where you'll use the springboard to fly up into the air as this asshole drops a bunch of crap on you. Move out of the way. Don't let him directly above you. This is like the opposite of Kaboom on Atari 2600. Eventually he'll just go away, and you're in a corridor with an annoying ass alarm going off. You'll see more of these springs in the pits. You'll get a higher boost from them if you lightly tap the B button. Jump across, but come back quickly here to tease these rolling barrels so you don't get plowed, then move on. Lining yourself up on the right spot with these springs is easier said than done though. Make sure you get a lot of height first, even when making the short jumps to give you a wider margin for error. When you get to the end of the area, this gold thing will appear out of nowhere and then disappear just as quickly. You'll see this little flash to indicate where it's coming from. Try to line yourself up in front of it, let it walk to you, and attack. After several hits, it's dead. Move on, take this long jump with the spring, and watch for all these falling bricks. Keep your eye on the shadows on the floor so you know where to avoid, and then you're on to the final boss. This big ass machine will move back and forth, dropping these spikes from above. When it backs up, move on ahead, punch it in the, well, I guess the face is the best way to describe it. And stay to the right as much as you can to lure the spike dropping thing to that side. Then head all the way to the left once it starts dropping them. You should be able to force it to drop all the spikes before it can reach you. Wait for the spikes to be wiped out before doing anything else, because the ones on the ground can still hurt you. And then move in to get as many shots as you can while luring the spikes to that side all over again. Keep this going until it's destroyed, and you'll discover that this wasn't the final boss. A one-on-one battle with Dr. Killamoth is. He'll summon these large orbs and fire them in your direction. If you get too close, he'll just push you away. So how the hell do you attack him at close range? Well, it requires some pretty precise timing and quickness. First, you have to swoop in front of him just as he's about to fire off an orb and smash him. Once you do, you need to get the fuck away from him as fast as you possibly can, like immediately, because he'll otherwise give you his deadly shove to the ground. I know this sounds kind of simple, but it's a lot harder to pull off than it seems. You've got to time your attack right so you don't get hit with an orb. And you've got to retreat immediately so you don't get hit then either. If you execute this to perfection, you'll eventually knock his mask off, he promises revenge, and he escapes back to the planet Smogula. You're reunited with Yvonne, the credits roll, and when they finish, Killamoth says he will not be defeated, hinting at the possibility of a sequel. Thank God that never happened. And thank God I never have to play this game again. That wraps up this edition of Aqualung's Game Reviews. See you next time.